26th of August 2015. This was the day when my dream was shattered. I wanted to become a fighter pilot in the Indian Air Force. I was at Mysore 2 Air Force Selection Board. The second day of selection, an officer comes in with a paper in his hand and announces the chest numbers. Like all of us had like chest numbers written on it. I think I was the chest number 18, and announces a bunch of other numbers of candidates and says, I'm sorry, guys, you can't be military aviators. All of us were shattered. So bear in mind, like, if you know anything about the Indian Armed Forces, about the Indian military, if you want to become a military aviator here in India, you have to pass something called as CPSS or PABT. So when I was appearing for being a pilot in the Air Force, there were these two tests. Both of them were once in a lifetime. That is, if you fail, you fail. You can't reappear for these tests. One of them was still under trials. That was the CPSS. This was very new method of testing pilots. The other was traditional PABT, that is pilot aptitude battery test. I kind of cleared the PABT, which was the traditional one, that is the pilot aptitude battery test. It was on a paper, and then you have to play a game to like check your hand-eye coordination. I passed both of them. When it comes to CPSS, it was a different ballgame altogether. A little bit of arithmetic. The information that we were given was that it was still under trials and it was not considered 100% guaranteed. Long story short, during the batch of candidates that were being tested during my phase, they kind of considered CPSS to be permanent testing instead of PABT. And as fate decided, none of us could ever become military pilots, not in the Indian Air Force, not in the Army, not in the Navy, or even in the Coast Guard for any reason. It was heartbreaking because all of us were aspirants and none of us could go through. So that day, it was not just my dream that was shattered, it was also a part of identity that was gone. Everybody knew in the cadet corps that Karthik was the guy who knows about aircrafts. He knows about if a MiG-29 can land under 350 meters of runway, or if it has a canard, and if it's big, it's a Su-30 instead of a MiG-29, how a helicopter works, all that. I was the go-to guy. Like, that kind of formed my identity. And since that is the path that was closed, I was also grieving a part of my identity that was lost. I started questioning, if this is not what I'm meant to do, what else am I supposed to do? Fast forward tomorrow, that is 12th of August 2026, my game is going to be launching on Steam, which is almost more than 10 years from the date of my dream that failed. And right now I'm able to achieve something else in life that I am setting out to. But this was not all roses. There is something that I wanted to tell you guys, and that is the reason why I was not able to make these devlogs for so long. Exactly a year ago, roughly about this time, between the months of July and August, two of my programmers who were working on Palm Sugar, a village story, had quit one after the other. Like, the main programmer, the senior most programmer, had quit first, and in a span of like 10 days to 2 weeks, the second programmer also quit. And I was thinking, am I going to be failing at my dream once again? Second time. And from a third person perspective, it might look as, hey, Karthik, just like move on. Maybe there is more to you in life. But when you are desperate to accomplish something, you are not in a mental state to consider that lightly. But fortunately, my publisher kind of saved my life, thanks to Street Lamp Games that stepped in and kind of picked up the mantle where it was left. The downside to that was, it was almost like starting a game once again from the scratch. Although all the code base was written, it was still very tough because the main programmers had all the knowledge about what was going on, and it was almost like starting this from scratch. Few things that kind of saved me were like, art was already made, there was a lot of music assets that were made, a lot of design choices were already set. But still, I consider programmers as the backbone of any game studio. Since the two guys who were working on this left, I had no other option. The knowledge base was also no longer available. Even though there was documentation in place, it was still very difficult for us to do that. The other thing was I kind of budgeted out for these two people. Like my budget was just sufficient with whatever we were doing. Now, since they're out, I don't think anybody would have agreed upon those terms. I'm not a VC funded game studio, so I could not find anyone upon the agreement that I would pay them post release because nobody wanted to buy into that guarantee. So Street Lab Games stepped in. They kind of helped me out with the game. The game took like 1 year into development, and that's the reason we are here. Big shout out to Arvind, who is the lead programmer for Palm Sugar: A Village Story. He worked tirelessly day in and out, pulling in the work of almost 2 programmers for the very long till I got another programmer. So yeah, I was almost on the verge of failure with this game, and I had no idea what I was gonna do. There were these multiple thoughts going on in my mind whether having a demo shipped game would allow me to get another job. Even that is not easier because you do have to close your game studio if you want to get a job somewhere, because if there is a studio registered on your name, it's going to be a problem during your background verification. So that was also out of option. Had it not been for Street Lamp Games, I wouldn't have been sitting here making Devlog 23. I think I would have just abandoned my channel because I don't know what else to do with it. So I recently took Palm Sugar: A Village Story to Manila, Philippines. What do you think about the game?
The game's actually pretty cool. It's actually like a PS1 vibe. It's like a classic, but for a beginner streamer, you can try it out.
And what is the element that kept you hooked to the game?
Actually, the element is slow.
Okay.
The progress is very cool.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, sir.
And I got like a decent response, but I don't want to ride that response because nobody knows how your game's going to perform until it releases. In the hindsight, when I reflect upon these 4 to 3 odd years that I've spent on making this game, I kind of took some decisions that got the ball rolling. Like, had I not made the trailer until the demo was finished, I wouldn't have gotten an eyeballs from my publisher, who happened to be my publisher. My publisher kind of spotted the trailer and he reached out to me. So this is one of the advice that I want to give if any game dev is watching. Put out all the things that you have made as much as possible and don't wait for perfection, because things will eventually happen. So whoever has followed my journey throughout, I'm glad you guys are here with me, stayed by my side. Palm Sugar: A Village Story comes out tomorrow on Steam. If you're a huge fan of this game, get the game and let me know what you think. Thanks a lot.